I'm here, I'm back. So as I promised you earlier, I told you I won't give my life history as it is. I remember I was born in 1980 in Muranga, the way I said in the earlier video. And I was raised by my aunt because I remember when I was small, my sister used to take care of me. She's dead now. And all of a sudden I was taken to my aunt, which I don't know what kind of an agreement was there with my grandma and my aunt, I don't know. But I found myself there in Kagema, where I remember I didn't have somebody to take me to school because my aunt, I think she was not that bothered about my life. I don't know why she took me in her home, because the care that I needed as a child, I didn't get it in the right way because I was beaten up, mistreated. And I remember even going to the nursery school, I took myself because there are kids which we were praying with, and I followed them. I have to follow them in the morning. And the teacher saw me and she told me to go because nobody has registered me to nursery. And I went go back home, and I remember my aunt, she didn't like it though because of the shame of the neighboring. She took me back to school and paid the what was required, and she didn't pay my fee again. But I remember even now and then she'll tell my mom I'm okay, and she'll ask my mom to bring some clothes. And I remember I could see things like bed sheets, which when I grew up I come to realize my aunt was being given things by my mom, and she didn't give me, of which in between there was a serious rejection. I am on this story is all about rejection. I was rejected to a level of almost killing myself because of rejection I was undergoing. I remember I stayed with my aunt and my uncle, and they had one son, and the one was big, he was married. And I remember I was their maid. Remember there is a big son, he's married, and the son has to go to work, and the woman has to go to the farm, and I have to be their maid. So I'll skip school and take care of their kids. I remember my uncle, the husband for my aunt, died, and I remember that man used to be so good to me. And I remember that was it. The first time I saw my mother, she came there to the funeral, but she didn't take long, and that was it. She went back to Nairobi, and I didn't hear about her again. And I remember my aunt will hold her picture and she will say, this woman is so bad. And I will go and check, like peeping, and I say, oh, this is my mother, she's saying she's bad. What she did to her, I couldn't comprehend. But how my aunt was holding us, I think she had a revenge against my mom. That's why she was like holding us there. Because I remember she used to call my mother names when I'm allowed, and I will hear, I will listen. I didn't care, but nowadays I come to realize why they didn't get along well. But she was like taking us to take revenge. That's what I was convinced, because I could see it all in her eyes. I remember she used to mistreat me so much and nicknaming me bad names, like calling me Nyakanga. You know, Nyakanga is like somebody who is like a village prostitute, like somebody who is like you cannot comprehend them. Who is she? She's a prostitute or something like that. But I didn't care because I was a kid. You know, a kid, you can say anything to them, but they don't care. I remember I stayed in my aunt, and I was so rejected in school, at home. Everywhere I was going, rejection, beatings. When somebody sent me to the shop, they don't want to understand I'm a kid, who beat me up. And I was like, tired of these beatings and mistreatment, doing all the work in the house and all that. And I told my aunt, now I want to go back to my people in Muranga because these mistreatments were too bad that I kept them in me, but I didn't tell her why I want to go back. And I remember she didn't take me, but I went there. I found my big sister and I told her that I'm being mistreated so much. Can you take me to stay with you? And my sister, because the way she was, she used to hate me also, but I didn't know deep down in her heart hate me. And she reported me to my aunt and told her this, saying that you are mistreating her. That was beating of the night. I was beaten up when we go back to Kangema. I couldn't speak anything anymore about my aunt, and I kept it. But it came to 1990, I couldn't take it anymore, and I told my aunt when we went to Muranga, leave me there. And she left me. That was it. She left me. And my mother came and she was told that your daughter is here, you have to take her to school. That she took me to Gaitega primary school, where I repeated in class because my pass mark was not good compared to the school, because the performance was not the same. Those they would do 5 exams, and here they are doing 7. So according to there, I had passed, but according to Muranga, I have failed. And I continue, and all of a sudden in that 1991 I started getting sick. These sicknesses I couldn't had, you know, these scabies, the sickness which called scabies, it will come to me in a way, it's not a normal one. My legs and my hands are always sick. And I remember because we used to stay, me and my sister and my brother, the second born in my family. My brother didn't like me at all, so I was living like my sister, the one who was bigger than me, was like my mother. So everything, if somebody's mistreating me, she would stand on my way and she would stop people from mistreating, because I was so mistreated, because rejection was there so hard. And I remember my brother used to beat me because she was small. She would start crying and telling him, leave her alone, like that. And my brother would stop. And I remember when the Christmas came of 1991, I remember my sister was invited by her friend and leaving me behind with my brother. I don't know where my brother was actually. Maybe I think he went in Nairobi, because I was alone. And I say because I'm alone, and everybody will come from the place, because I remember my aunt, we used to have a very rich aunt who used to live in Anyuki, my mom's brother. And they came, it was on 24th, they came Christmas Eve, and we had a good time. There is this brother, lastborn of my mother. When the visitors come, he didn't appreciate them, and I was one who was trying to introduce people to him. This is who and who and who, and he was so mad at me. I didn't know he has a grudge. At that night, he went and drank his alcohol and came back very drunk, and he broke the door of my grandma. When we are sleeping in the bedroom of my grandma, and my grandma and my aunt are sleeping on the floor, because there was not enough space, so they created a place to sleep. At night, I could hear some crying. It's like groaning, or somebody being choked, or somebody being about to be killed. And I could hear my aunt saying, don't kill my mother, don't kill my mother. And all of a sudden, my grandma, my uncle stopped choking my grandma. He ran to my aunt, the one now I was living before in her home. And I couldn't take it anymore, because I loved her with passion, that she has become like my mother. I get out, I rushed from the bedroom, and I took a very big stick and I hit my uncle on the head. which created a wound, and that blood was flowing, and he was so furious, and he went to his room. There was a house outside. He got to fetch for a panga to slash me. And I remember, because I was just a kid in 1991, I was 10 years. I ran under the bed. I thought I'm hiding. And he came, he searched, and he found me under the bed. He grabbed me by the leg and put me upside down. And I remember he was holding that lamp, the small lamp that homemade. And I remember he told me, today is the day you are going to die. Say bye-bye to the world, because I'm going to slash you into small pieces. And I was like, okay, I'm going to die. And he's holding a lamp. So I breathed the lamp. This thing, I don't know how it get in my mind, but I thank God it was him. I brought that thing, and he lost he get confused, because you know, sometimes light is so important, because when you have a darkness in you, nothing else gets in you apart from confusion. He was confused enough not to realize he has left panga near the doorstep. So he went back in his house to fetch the matchbox to light the lamp so that he can come back to me. I didn't wait for him. I rushed through the window, and everybody else rushed after me. We ran, and we got to the neighbors. As if that was not enough, we come the following morning, and we eat breakfast, and we cook lunch. Like the Christmas was here. Everybody's taking shower, wearing night clothes, waiting for food to be cooked so that you celebrate together. I remember my uncle came from nowhere. Remember the yesterday episode? Now he had a wound on the head, and he went again to drink. And I remember when he went, he come back like a wild animal. He was holding a bow and an arrow, and he was pointing at me, and he said that today I'm going to kill everybody. And I was like, what? This man is serious. And I ran, and my aunt and everybody in the house ran away. And I remember it was just a coincidence. I don't know what I would say, because my mom had already sent my sister to check on us. So she was coming to my grandma when I was running towards the road. And remember, my uncle is running after me and saying that, you hit me yesterday night and I can't forgive you. I'm going to kill you. I didn't succeed to kill you. Now I'm killing you. Remember, he has arrow. And if one arrow touch you, it's poisonous. They put poison. So my sister saved me. God used my sister to save me that day. That was not just the episode of death and rejection, because it was all about rejection. Because when you have rejection, people will try to kill you for nothing. I remember the story of Joseph, when the brothers, he's just there, he's just a boy, but because they just reject him, they are trying to finish him off. This is the story about rejection. And I remember I stopped going to my grandma, and we went to stay in the house, and my sister came back from where she went, and my sister scolded her. Why did you leave your small sister? So your uncle was about to kill her. And it was how it was, and that episode ended. And that Christmas ended. It was not good Christmas, because we are full of fear. We don't know what our uncle will do, or what is he planning to do. But I remember that episode was closed, and I didn't go to my grandma's house again. And I remember I went to them again in April the following year, in 1992, because I remember my grandma was searching for me and said, why did you stop coming in my house? I said, no, I cannot, because my uncle is going to kill me. And she told me, no, just continue coming. And that is the first attempt of killing, of death. And I remember in 1992, I remember that is when I started having a very difficult situation of demonic attack. I remember The first time I became sick, I was sick like malaria, not like malaria. I don't know what was it. And I remember my sister, the one I was living with, because my mom had left us in the village and she was working in Nairobi. Sometimes she will come, sometimes she will send money. And I remember she used to come, and that thing was not getting in my brains that everybody was beating me anyhow. My mom will come, she just come and she will ask how she doing and did blah 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 blah, and she will beat me up. I end up like I don't want my mother to come because I didn't want her. Because she was always, when she comes, she will beat me up. I would not be having a good time. And that is when I started learning that my mother has rejected me dearly, and she was by my sister's side. And I remember I get sick. Those time I was getting sick. Nobody was caring. Nobody would take me to the hospital. And I remember one time, because of the rejection was so high, I remember getting sick. I was so sick in malaria, and I told God what I want. I want him to kill me. Just remove me to this world, because it was rejecting me. And I had this conviction in my brain that if you are rejected, the people are waiting for you to die so that you get out of them. And it was like that to me. And I told God, please take me. But we go to sleep. I didn't tell my sister that I have told God to kill me. I took my medicine and malaria medicine, and we go to sleep. In the morning when I wake up, I could see light, and I thought, oh, I'm dead. But I was not dead. It's me, not my ghost. I remember I wake up and I ask God, why didn't you kill me, God? Why did you spare my life? Because these people are just waiting for the day for me to die. I can do it so quick that it will not give them hard time. And I remember I went to relax on the grass because my body was not well, and remember I'm sick. And I remember the first time I hear a voice, I was 11 years in class 4. I hear the Lord speak to me, and he told me, you are my servant. And because I was speaking by myself, and I say, my grandma hates me, everyone hates me. But I remember I had a voice that you are my servant. And I remember I was so scared. I ran into the house because, you know, there was these sicknesses like malaria. You can get seriously sick. People would think like, is she getting crazy like that? And I kept it in my heart, but as I continued growing, I could remember that voice. In the same year, I remember getting sick. My left leg, I was sick. It was kind of weird sicknesses because it just developed, and I realized my hair was painful, such that there was water coming from my hair, and it was so smelly. It started rotting, like something was rotten, smelling so bad, and I couldn't understand what was going on, and nobody had an answer. And I remember the whole leg started aching badly, that I was limping on one leg. And I remember my sister was all the time with me, all the time was crying because pain, couldn't sleep at night. I wake up and sit down and start crying. My sister would not sleep because she was only the one person I had in the house. And that leg, it hurted me badly, that it brought confusion in my brains, that I stopped concentrating in school, but which I was going, and I was clever, but sometimes I will be in serious pain that I will stay in the house. That's class 4. I remember this rejection went to school, because I remember our class teacher used to reject me. I was rejected by bad teachers. Sometimes some will beat me for nothing. They will call me names. Some some like if you know what's the meaning of rejection, you understand what I'm saying when I say rejection. I was so rejected dearly. And I remember my class teacher used to call me good for nothing. I was clever, but half subject I was not very good well in math, because I would get 70% and she was expecting 80, 88 like that, because I was in a group of top 10s. So you don't expect a top 10 to give you 60% of the marks of what you are expecting. So she will beat me to fill up. If she wants 80 and I have 70, she'll beat me 10 strokes so that she'll feel it. And I noticed, and she had a girl in the class, like a class monitor. She hated me to an extent she'll make sure that teacher has beaten me every day, because nice maker. Remember, I'm rejected. Nobody loved me, even in class. I was so rejected that even kids, when we are crossing the school, they would beat me up for nothing. I remember that beatings went to my head that I would not go to school at the closing day. Or maybe sometimes I would go, because actually was so God has given me this privilege of knowing things, that I was always getting a prize in the prize giving day, so I will not miss. So what I was doing after the prize giving is over, I will not wait for school to be closed. It's better I receive a beating from the teacher after opening the school than waiting for the kids to beat me at the closing day, because I was rejected and beaten for nothing. So I was running home. Sometimes it become unfortunate. They would get me and beat me up, and the life continue. I remember that is 1992. I'm sick on my leg, and it didn't stop there. I continued like that. Another thing I developed, I had this headache. A headache came, but it didn't stop. So I was like, always like, I thought everybody's like that. Everybody had a headache. This headache went more than 15 years. I'm coming there, I will tell you. And I remember that time I would sleep and I would see some people coming in my bed. They would touch me and go, and I would not tell my sister, because I was afraid that everybody would think I'm going crazy. As the life continued, I remember I used to see a man. This man would come and touch me and go. And one time, I remember, because my sister finished class 8 and my mother took her to the tailoring course, and she took her to Nairobi, and I was left alone. I suffered a very serious demonic attack, because this man will appear every day. I would see him in the darkness, and I would say, this man's troubling me, because I couldn't do anything to stop it, and I got nowhere to go. Remember, this is the only house we have. It's a rented house. My mother has taken everybody to Nairobi, and I'm left alone. I'm in class 7, and I remember I couldn't stop it, because I remember I had received Jesus Christ as my savior. I would go to church, the deliverance church I used to go, and they would pray for me, and I would tell them what I'm experiencing. And I remember one time we found my big brother said it's illegal for a baby girl child to stay at the village by herself. What if somebody rape her or somebody kill her? And my mom was not like, who will kill her? We don't care about her. And my brother came to stay with me. And I remember when my brother came, that's when he discovered somebody's coming in our home and going around the house naked. And I remember one time when he's coming from wherever he was coming from, his friends, he found that woman around the house naked, and he was furious, and he ran after her, and he saw where she went. It was our neighbor, and he couldn't comprehend that, because some things are so difficult to speak or to keep on following. And I remember that episode ended like that. And my brother, I remember he would be in Nairobi back. And when I remember, when I was still in class 7, there was these termites. They came in our home. They flood like half of the house like that. Like you have to sweep them to pave away inside. Everybody was coming asking, what is this? I remember back then when I was staying with my sister, we were so poor. We would steal food from people. And I have seen termites. And you know, like significant of a termite is something that is coming to eat and destroy everything that you have. And I remember I was alone. It was a scary experience for me because termites in the house, and they are this many, like they are storming on something. And I remember my mom was told the story, and she didn't do anything, which she got to. I remember she used to have a woman who she was attending her church, and she would tell her everything. And I remember she sent her home with a message to touch my leg and pray for those termites to go. And those termites left, but they tormented me so much because we will sweep them. Villagers will come. People will come from far to see those termites because nobody has ever seen so many termites in the house. So many that we didn't understand it. And I remember on that episode of termite, there was this big snake. It came and sleep on the crack of the house. I couldn't see it. I'm all alone in the house and I couldn't see that snake, and sleeping peacefully on the crack. I remember the one child, she was I think 2 or 3 years. She used to disturb me so much, and she called me. She told me, Lucy, there is a big worm, because she didn't know it's a snake. And I told her, okay, it's a big worm, let it go. I didn't know she was inside the house because I was outside washing my clothes, and I thought these kids are disturbing me. I have so many things to concentrate with. I don't remember whether I was doing homework outside, because I have to do homework outside because there is no kerosene. Sometimes we don't have, the house is dark, so I will make sure I do homework outside in the daylight, so that when the night comes, I will just sleep early because there is no lamp. Or maybe I will just go stay in people's house until late at night. That's when I will take like walking, like touching and sleeping, because there is no lamp. We don't have anything. I was poor, very poor, and I was living alone. I used to go to people when they are eating, I'm there. And I remember I stayed a very difficult life because I was not just begging, but even stealing food, because sometimes you can be hungry to an extent that you cannot take it anymore. And that was my life of begging people food and staying like that alone. And I remember in the village, I used to be beaten so badly. Even people in the village, I remember there was these people, my neighbors, they were rich actually. The kids would mistreat me. They would talk to me anyhow because, who are you, by the way? You are poor. Who is your parent? Who is your people? Who are you, by the way? Who is you? And I remember there was this neighbor. The episode of snake, I remember I asked my neighbor, please can you come and kill the snake? There is a snake in the house. And this neighbor was somehow weird, because when she saw me, she would throw the spit away, like she hated me with passion. And whenever I want to speak, she would not let me say a word, because she was like, what the hell are you saying, and who are you? And I remember I called her to tell her son to kill the snake for me. She told me her son is not a snake killer. And I remember calling another neighbor. The son responded and killed the snake. And when the first woman learned the snake was killed, she was not happy. She came around our house asking her, they killed it for you. And then she go. That was it. And I remember that after that episode, I remember I went to class 8 now. I was used to the life of not eating, nobody's caring, I'm alone, and I was used to that. And I remember when I went to class 8, almost the time to do KCP, because they remember the neighbors I had. I would go to the breakfast in their home, whether they like it or not. I would be their guest because I don't have anything else to do. I have to be their guest by force in the morning and maybe in the supper. Sometimes they will not give you food. Sometimes they will give you up to them, but you are there. And I remember somebody came and steal the maize from one of the neighbor, and somehow the trail of the maize was, the last one was near my home. And that woman, I remember I was going to school, she ran after me, calling me, Lucy, Lucy, come back, you are a maize thief. You know, when people are shouting like that, they are calling, like they want to kill you, but they don't want to say it direct. Now she shouted at the children. I was with her children and they scolded me, stalked, and she come back in my home. She removed everything from upside down my bed and she told me that I'm going to take you to the witch doctor because there is nobody in this village, don't have a mother, it's only you. You are the only person who can steal maize in this place. That now I tell her I didn't steal. She told me you have to say it if it's your brother who stole for you. I told her my brother went to Nairobi like last week. Now how can I carry a whole sack of maize? She declared it was me and that was it. And she told me I will take you to the witch doctor. And I was convinced if she can open her mouth and tell me she will take me to the witch doctor, that means she used to take me. But God made her spoke that day. That was what I was convinced.